Allo, allo, it's Nia. Welcome to AI Creator World Podcast, the place where creators learn how to grow faster, build smarter, and turn artificial intelligence into real opportunity. Here, we explore powerful AI tools, content strategies, personal branding systems, and new ways to create income in the digital era. If you are building something online, you are in the right place. Let's begin.
A teenager riding the bus right now, just staring at their phone, has more video production power in their pocket than a Hollywood studio had 10 years ago.
Oh, without a doubt. It's wild to think about.
And the really wild part, they don't even know how to edit.
Right. They completely bypass the learning curve.
Exactly. I want you to really let that sink in for a second. If you think back to the early 2020s, having a great idea for a video like, I don't know, a tutorial, a documentary, a marketing pitch that was maybe only 10% of the battle.
If that, honestly. The other 90% was just this agonizing gauntlet of technical hurdles.
Oh, completely. You were basically forced to drain your bank account on camera bodies and lenses.
Yeah, and then you had to buy software that looked like the control panel of a nuclear submarine.
Yes, and you'd spend your nights just staring at a glowing screen, practically losing your vision, trying to manually slice these microscopic slivers of digital video just to make a simple jump cut.
I mean, you were essentially forced to become a software engineer and a mechanic just to tell a basic story.
Which is such a tragedy for creativity.
It was. It was a profound form of technical gatekeeping. The medium of video was artificially restricted to people who had the capital to buy the gear and, the sheer stubborn free time to climb an impossibly steep learning curve.
Right.
You could be the most brilliant storyteller in the world, but if you didn't understand how to manually balance audio frequencies or compress a file, your voice was effectively silenced.
But, well, we are sitting here in 2026, and that entire paradigm has completely collapsed.
Totally. It's gone.
We've crossed this threshold where complete beginners are producing wildly engaging, highly polished content without ever learning what a keyframe is.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what we are dissecting today in this deep dive. We're looking at a really comprehensive guide published by the AI Creator World team.
Right. The 12 best AI tools for beginner video creators in 2026.
That's the one. And our mission today is to be your personal navigator through this landscape. We aren't just going to read off a list of software.
No, that would be boring. We really need to break down the mechanics of how these specific tools eliminate that learning curve.
Exactly. Why they work the way they do, and how you can actually stack them into a workflow that practically runs itself.
Because the underlying shift here is what makes this so critical to understand. When we look at this source material, we aren't just looking at software updates. We're really looking at a fundamental democratization of visual communication.
Democratization, I like that.
Yeah, because by removing the friction of the technical process, the algorithm has leveled the playing field. The gap between having a concept in your head and publishing a finished professional video is now shorter than it has ever been in human history.
To really grasp the magnitude of these 12 tools, I think we have to start by looking at the graveyard of what AI has replaced.
Oh, the traditional timeline.
Right. We are witnessing the death of the traditional timeline. For decades, video editing relied on this concept called nonlinear editing.
Annalise.
You had this visual timeline, and you dropped blocks of video and audio onto it. But it was an exercise in extreme, punishing micromanagement.
Oh, it was brutal. You had to understand codecs.
Ugh, codecs, which, for the uninitiated, is basically that complex algorithmic wrapper that compresses a massive video file so your computer doesn't literally explode and then decompresses it for playback.
Right, and then you had to manually sync your separate audio tracks to your visual tracks.
I remember doing that, staring at the jagged little waves of sound and nudging them millisecond by millisecond.
Just praying that the visual of a person's lips moving actually matched the sound of their voice.
It was so tedious. It was labor that had absolutely nothing to do with creativity.
Exactly. The traditional timeline forces you to focus on the mathematical relationship between files rather than the emotional impact of the narrative.
I've always thought about traditional video editing like this. Imagine you realize you are out of milk and you want to drive to the grocery store. But before you are legally allowed to pull out of your driveway, you have to build the car's engine from scratch.
That is painfully accurate.
Right. You have to machine the steel, assemble the pistons, calibrate the fuel injection, pour the oil. And you're sitting there like, I just want the milk.
I just want to share my ideas.
Exactly. But the old system forced you to become a certified mechanic first.
That analogy perfectly captures the frustration this source guide is addressing. What these AI tools represent is a transition from building the engine to, well, stepping into a self-driving car.
A self-driving car. I love that.
But critically, it's a self-driving car equipped with very specific invisible guardrails.
Let's pop the hood on that for a second.
Yeah.
What do those guardrails actually look like mechanically?
Mm-hmm.
When the source talks about AI taking over, how is it preventing the user from crashing the car?
So the guardrails operate through predictive algorithms that essentially enforce professional standards. Take scene detection, for example. In the past, if you had a long, continuous recording and you wanted to cut out the dead space, you had to watch the entire thing in real time.
And physically make a digital slice every time the camera angle changed or the action stopped?
Exactly. But today's AI doesn't just watch the video. It analyzes pixel contrast and structural similarity from frame to frame.
Wait, so it's looking at the actual math of the pixels.
Yes, it can mathematically detect the exact moment a scene changes and automatically slice the clip for you in milliseconds. It won't let you make a sloppy cut because it aligns the slice perfectly with the visual shift.
So the AI is acting as the mechanic, the safety inspector, and the chauffeur all at once.
Precisely. And it's handling the acoustics, too. The source mentions automated audio enhancement.
Oh, that's a huge one. Because it used to take an audio engineer to look at an equalizer and know how to pull down the harsh hissing frequencies of a cheap microphone.
While boosting the warm bass tones of a human voice.
Right. Now, AI models have been trained on millions of hours of professional studio recordings.
Millions of hours.
So when you hit enhance, it's instantly comparing your messy bedroom audio to that massive data set. It literally mathematically forces your sound waves to match the profile of a professional studio.
And by automating that execution, the cognitive load on you, the creator, just drops to zero.
You don't have to worry about the physics of sound or light anymore.
Exactly. You are finally free to focus entirely on the psychology of your message.
Which brings us to a really vital question. If AI is doing all the heavy lifting, and the underlying technology is somewhat ubiquitous across the internet, what actually separates a good beginner tool from a frustrating one?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right, because if I search AI video editor right now, I get 10,000 results. It's overwhelming.
It is. But the guide from AI Creator World cuts through that noise by establishing a very strict anatomy of a beginner-friendly tool.
They outline specific non-negotiable criteria, don't they?
They do. The absolute baseline is the user interface. It has to be a true drag-and-drop environment.
And that matters because of the cognitive translation, right? Old software required you to memorize arcane keyboard shortcuts.
Oh, yeah. Press C for the razor tool, press V for the selection tool.
Hold shift to ripple delete. It was like trying to play a piano while doing math.
The guide points out that a modern tool has to be visual and tactile. If you see a piece of footage, you literally grab it with your finger or your mouse and drop it where it belongs.
It just completely removes the translation layer between your brain and the screen.
Right. It needs to feel like manipulating physical objects on a table.
Makes total sense.
The second criterion the guide emphasizes is the economic barrier, or rather, the lack of one.
Because a tool is totally useless to a beginner if it demands a massive upfront investment.
Exactly. The guide only highlights tools with generous free tiers, exports that aren't ruined by massive, intrusive watermarks, or premium plans that sit comfortably under the $20 a month mark.
That economic shift really changes the psychology of creating. When you don't have a $1,000 software license hanging over your head, you aren't terrified of making a bad video.
You have the freedom to experiment and fail, which is how you actually learn.
Yeah. Failure is free now. But the third criterion the guide mentions is perhaps the most defining characteristic of the 2026 landscape.
Mobile primacy. We really have to acknowledge where the modern beginner actually lives. The vast majority of new creators are not sitting at a desk with dual monitors.
No, they're shooting the footage on their smartphone.
They are editing it on the same screen, and they are publishing it directly to a mobile app.
So the software can't just be some watered-down, clunky port of a desktop program. It has to be engineered from the ground up for a touch interface.
Totally. And that leads into the fourth criterion, which is where I think we might want to debate the source material a little bit.
Oh, bring it on.
The guide praises tools that rely heavily on built-in templates and automation. It says a good beginner tool should have thousands of pre-built templates for Reels, TikToks, and YouTube intros.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here.
Right.
Let's be honest. If 10 million beginners all download the same app and use the exact same trending aesthetic template,
Mm.
doesn't the platform just become a monotonous sea of identical clones?
It's a very valid fear.
Like it becomes a straitjacket.
Yeah.
At what point does relying on a template actually kill a creator's originality?
I hear that, but I think it fundamentally misunderstands how beginners actually absorb information. If you look closely at the philosophy in the AI Creator World Guide, it does not view templates as the final destination.
Okay, then what are they?
It views them as accelerators.
Accelerators. Walk me through the mechanics of that.
Think about what happens when you open a blank project file. The paralysis of the blank page is overwhelming because you have to make 1,000 micro decisions at once.
Right. Font size, color, timing, music.
Exactly. Now, look at a professional template. What are you actually seeing? You are looking at a mathematical framework of established visual hierarchy.
Ah, I see where you're going.
You are looking at tested pacing. You're seeing the precise timing of a transition, how a professional designer pairs a bold sans serif font with a subtle script, or how they balance a warm color grade with cool text.
So when a beginner opens that template and starts swapping out the stock footage for their own stuff, they are forced to interact with those parameters.
Yes. By changing the text but keeping the font size and positioning, they are organically feeling the boundaries of good design.
Oh, wow. So they are reverse engineering professional aesthetics by playing around inside the engine.
Exactly. They develop an intuitive muscle memory understanding of what makes a frame visually balanced far faster than if they sat through a 5-hour theoretical lecture on color theory and the rule of thirds.
The template absorbs the burden of structure so the creator can focus on their actual message.
Right, you aren't copying. You are taking apart a professionally built watch to see how the gears fit together and then using those gears to build your own.
That completely flips the perspective for me.
Yeah.
And this dominance of mobile, template-driven creation leads us perfectly into the first major category of tools the guide highlights: the all-in-one giants.
The heavyweights.
These are the platforms that crack the code of putting desktop-level power into a 6-inch screen. And the undisputed king of this arena is CapCut.
CapCut's trajectory is staggering. As the guide points out, it has become one of the most widely utilized AI video editors globally.
And it achieved that scale because it systematically identified every major friction point in mobile video creation and threw a specialized AI at it.
Yeah, it started as the default editor for TikTok, but it has completely outgrown that. It's a massive ecosystem now.
Let's look at how it handles the most tedious tasks, because the mechanics are fascinating. Take beat syncing.
Ah, beat syncing.
Anyone who has ever tried to edit a montage of clips to a fast-paced song knows it is pure torture.
It is. Because traditional software just sees an audio file as a dumb, flat block of sound.
Right. You have to manually zoom way into the timeline, stare at the audio waveform, look for the tiny spike that represents a snare drum, make a razor cut on your video, and drag it into place.
And you have to do that hundreds of times for a single minute of video.
But CapCut's beat syncing fundamentally changes how the software hears the music.
How so?
The AI reads the audio waveform like a topographical map. It scans the track looking for transients.
Transients.
Yeah, transients are those sharp, subtle spikes in audio data. The kick drum, the bass drop, the sharp vocal hit. The AI maps every single transient in the song and turns them into magnetic snap points on your timeline.
Oh, that is brilliant, right?
You just drop a dozen raw video clips onto the track, hit a button, and the AI mathematically shrinks and stretches your footage so every single cut lands exactly on a transient.
It literally turns a mathematical chore into an instantaneous reflex.
It understands the rhythm structurally.
And CapCut pairs that with an incredibly robust background removal tool, too. It uses neural networks to differentiate between a human subject and their environment, completely eliminating the need for a physical green screen.
Which is huge for mobile creators. But while CapCut dominates the mobile-first vertical video space, the guide highlights another giant in this category that approaches the problem from a completely different angle: Canva.
Canva is such a fascinating inclusion because they didn't start in video at all.
No, not at all. They are the company that democratized graphic design. They took the terrifying complexity of Photoshop, stripped away the confusing layers and masks, and turned it into pure drag-and-drop simplicity.
And now they've applied that exact same logic to a video timeline.
The genius of Canva's video editor is its lack of a learning curve for millions of existing users. If you've ever created an Instagram graphic or a slide deck in Canva, your brain already understands their spatial logic.
Exactly, but the true strategic advantage, the guide points out, is the power of the ecosystem.
Right. It's about brand consistency. Let's say you are a solo entrepreneur. You run a coffee shop.
Yeah.
You need a printed menu, a digital flyer for Instagram, and a promotional video for YouTube. In the old world, you'd make the menu in InDesign, the flyer in Photoshop, and the video in Premiere.
And you were constantly fighting to make sure your specific shade of orange and your exact corporate font look the same across 3 totally different software engines.
It's a nightmare. With Canva, all of your visual collateral lives in a single unified ecosystem.
Your brand kit, your colors, your logos, your typography is universally accessible. You can drag the exact same animated logo you used on a presentation directly onto your video timeline.
And Canva has layered in powerful AI tools like Magic Edit, right?
Yes, Magic Edit is amazing. It uses generative AI to let you highlight an object in your video, say a coffee cup, and type a prompt to instantly swap it out for a vase of flowers.
It combines graphic design, video editing, and generative AI into one seamless flow.
So, CapCut is your weapon of choice if you are shooting vertical video on your phone and want the most aggressive, feature-packed timeline to match the speed of social media trends.
And Canva is your choice if you are building a holistic visual brand across print, graphics, and video.
But here is where this deep dive takes a really wild turn.
I love wild turns.
What if your brain simply doesn't process information spatially? What if you hate the concept of a visual timeline entirely?
What if you are a writer and you prefer dealing with words instead of pictures?
This is one of the most profound paradigm shifts the guide covers. We are talking about the abstraction of the timeline itself. We're talking about editing video like a text document.
And the absolute pioneer in this space is Descript.
Descript is incredible.
The first time I saw Descript in action, my jaw hit the floor. It felt like watching a magic trick.
Break down the mechanism for us. How does it work?
Okay, so you take a raw video file, maybe an hour-long interview, and you drop it into Descript. Descript doesn't just show you a timeline. It runs the audio through a massive natural language processing engine.
Okay.
Within seconds, it spits out a text document on your screen. You are literally looking at what appears to be a standard Word document containing every single word spoken in the video.
And this is where the paradigm shifts. That text document is inexorably linked by timecode to the video frames. The text is the video.
Yes. So if you are reading the transcript and you realize your guest rambled on a boring tangent for 2 paragraphs, you don't go to the video timeline.
You don't even look at the video.
You just take your mouse, highlight those 2 paragraphs of text, and hit the backspace key on your keyboard.
And the moment the words vanish from the screen, the corresponding 30 seconds of video are seamlessly sliced and removed from the final cut.
It's mind-blowing. If you want to take the final sentence of the video and use it as your intro hook, you literally highlight the text, press Ctrl+C to copy, scroll to the top of the document, and press Ctrl+V to paste.
And the video clips automatically rearrange themselves to match the text.
It transforms video editing from a spatial visual task into a linguistic task.
It is an absolute lifeline for journalists, podcasters, and content marketers who are intimidated by audio waveforms but have spent their entire lives mastering the flow of a written essay.
But Descript pushes this linguistic control even further with a feature called overdub.
Overdub is where we start brushing up against science fiction.
It really is. Let's say you record a complex corporate presentation and you review the footage later. You realize you said, our profits were up 15% in Q3, but you meant to say Q4.
Traditionally, that is a disaster. You have to set up a camera, match the lighting, match the room echo, and try to re-record that one sentence.
But with overdub, Descript has already learned the unique phonetic footprint of your voice from the audio you uploaded. It has cloned your voice.
Wait, really?
Yes. So, to fix the error, you don't turn on a camera. You simply delete the number 3 in the text transcript and type the number 4.
And the AI synthesizes your voice and seamlessly inserts the new audio, matching the exact tone and inflection of the surrounding sentence.
It's basically injecting a deep fake of your own voice to fix your mistakes.
That is nuts.
And it pairs that with a feature called Studio Sound. If you recorded that presentation in a hollow, echoey kitchen with the hum of a refrigerator in the background, Studio Sound uses AI to isolate the frequencies of the human voice.
And strips away the background noise entirely.
Entirely. And artificially regenerates the acoustic warmth of a professional podcasting microphone.
It mathematically reconstructs the audio signal. Now, Descript is brilliant for deep structural editing, But the guide also points to Veed.io in this text-centric category, which solves a different but equally massive problem for creators.
Oh, Veed.io is fascinating because its entire architecture is browser-based. You don't download a massive application that hogs your computer's memory.
Right, the interface lives in your web browser, and all the heavy computational processing, rendering the video, running the AI models, happens on Veed's cloud servers.
That is a massive deal for a beginner who might only have a 5-year-old laptop or a basic Chromebook.
It truly democratizes access to processing power. But Veed's absolute superpower, according to the AI Creator World team, is its auto-subtitling engine.
And to understand why this is so critical, we have to understand the psychology and the reality of mobile viewing behavior.
Right, because auto captions aren't just a neat visual trick. They're the difference between a video succeeding or dying in the algorithm.
Exactly. The vast majority of social media consumption happens in public spaces, on a subway, in a waiting room, or late at night in bed while a partner is sleeping.
Millions of people scroll their feeds with the sound completely muted.
If your video starts playing and there is just a person's mouth moving with no text on the screen, the viewer will scroll past it in less than a second.
You have lost them before you even made your point.
But by using Veed's auto captions, which support over 100 languages with staggering accuracy, you instantly capture the silent viewer.
Now think about the mechanics of doing that manually in the past.
Oh, man. You had to listen, type the sentence, create a text graphic, and drag the edges of the graphic to match the exact frames where the speaker started and stopped talking.
It was a brutal test of hand-eye coordination.
Veed uses acoustic modeling to match phonemes, the distinct sounds of speech, to a massive dictionary database, generating the text and pinning it to the exact corresponding video frames in the time it takes you to blink.
It guarantees accessibility and dramatically increases viewer retention by completely automating the most agonizing chore in video production.
So tools like Descript and Veed are absolute lifesavers if you have raw footage. You turn on a camera, you talk, and they help you clean it up.
Good.
But what if you don't want to do that?
What do you mean?
What if you are a writer, a blogger, or someone who is fundamentally terrified of a camera lens? What if your lighting is terrible and you don't own a microphone?
That leads us to the third major category the guide explores, the no camera required toolkit.
This is where things get really interesting.
It is. This is where we cross the line from AI as an assistant to AI as a generative partner.
Let's start with Pictory and InVideo. These tools are built to solve a very specific problem. How do you turn a wall of text into a compelling visual narrative without filming anything?
Let's say you have a highly researched 2,000-word blog post about the history of the Apollo missions. You know it would make a great YouTube video, but you have zero footage.
With Pictory, you simply paste the text of your article into the software.
And the underlying mechanism that takes over is a highly sophisticated natural language processing engine.
NLP again.
Yes. It doesn't just read the words. It analyzes the semantic meaning and the emotional tone of the sentences.
So it's looking for what exactly?
It extracts the core keywords, Apollo, moon, launch, tension, and automatically cross-references those concepts with a massive licensed library of millions of stock video clips.
It is essentially doing the job of an archival researcher and a director simultaneously.
Exactly. It pulls a high-quality clip of a rocket launch, drops it on the timeline, pulls a clip of the moon's surface, drops it next, and then automatically generates perfect on-screen captions from your text to tie it all together.
That's incredible. Now, InVideo operates on a very similar frequency, but it pushes the generative aspect even further with its AI assistant.
How so?
You don't even need a fully written blog post. You can simply provide a text prompt, much like you would to ChatGPT.
Oh, wow.
You can type, create a 60-second educational video explaining the water cycle to middle schoolers using an upbeat tone.
And it does the rest.
The AI will write the script from scratch, generate an artificial voiceover to read it, select the relevant stock footage of rain and rivers, and apply one of its thousands of stylistic templates to the final product.
You are conjuring a fully realized educational video out of thin air with a single sentence.
Exactly. The guide also mentions FlexClip in this space, noting that it offers similar text-to-video capabilities and auto-subtitles, but its true strength is its accessibility,
Right. It has an incredibly generous free plan.
making it the perfect low-risk sandbox for a beginner who wants to experiment with text-to-video translation without handing over a credit card.
But while pictoring and video are amazing at curating existing stock footage, if we want to look at the absolute bleeding edge of the no-camera movement, we have to talk about Synthesia and Luma AI.
Oh, yes. These tools are operating in a completely different paradigm.
They aren't searching a database for pre-existing clips. They are mathematically generating new visual realities pixel by pixel.
Synthesia is the pioneer of the AI avatar. For listeners who haven't encountered this, it is surreal.
It really is.
You tuck out your script, then you browse a library of digital avatars. These are highly photorealistic, AI-generated human beings.
You pick a presenter, you select from dozens of native languages and accents, and Synthesia renders a video of that digital human speaking your exact words.
Wait, I have to admit I'm stuck on something here. The human brain is incredibly sensitive to fake faces. It's called the uncanny valley.
Right.
If the AI is just slapping a moving mouth onto a static face, it looks creepy. How does Synthesia actually make it look real enough to use in a professional setting?
It solves the uncanny valley through incredibly dense micro-expression modeling.
Okay, unpack that.
The AI isn't just flapping a jaw up and down. It is utilizing generative adversarial networks, or GANs. It has been trained on thousands of hours of human speech to understand the physiological relationship between foams and facial muscles.
So it knows what a face physically does when making a sound.
Yes. When the avatar says a word with a hard P or B, the AI knows exactly how the lips need to compress. It mathematically models the subtle narrowing of the eyes, the slight tilt of the head, and the micro movements of the cheeks that naturally accompany human speech patterns.
It is generating the biomechanics of communication.
That is staggering. And the guide notes that this is absolutely revolutionary for things like corporate training modules, HR onboarding, or faceless YouTube channels.
You can produce hours of high-quality, human-led educational content without ever booking a studio, setting up a light, or forcing a nervous employee to read a teleprompter.
It entirely detaches the creation of content from the physical limitations of the creator.
And while Synthesia is rendering humans, Luma AI is rendering the rest of the world.
Luma's Dream Machine uses advanced diffusion models to generate incredibly smooth, realistic video clips and even spatial 3D environments strictly from text descriptions.
Diffusion models. Let's explain how that works, because it's the engine behind all this new generative art.
Hmm.
When you type a cinematic drone shot flying over a futuristic neon city in the rain into Luma AI, it doesn't search for a video of a city.
No. A diffusion model essentially starts with a screen full of pure random visual noise like television static.
Like the snow on an old TV.
Exactly. Through billions of parameters of training data, the AI has learned the mathematical relationship between the word neon, the word rain, and specific pixel arrangements.
So it pulls the image out of the static.
It slowly denoises that static, frame by frame, guiding the pixels into the shape of the city you described, calculating the physics of how light would reflect off wet pavement in a three-dimensional space.
It is hallucinating a reality based on your words.
It is. So when we look at this entire no-camera toolkit, Pictory, InVideo, Synthesia, Luma AI, how does this practically change the day-to-day life of a traditional creator, let's say a freelance writer or a content marketer?
It represents a massive expansion of leverage. In the old media ecosystem, if a writer wanted to tap into the massive audience on YouTube or TikTok, they had to entirely halt their primary skill writing and spend months learning the physical craft of cinematography and editing.
It was an incredibly costly diversion.
Today, they don't have to pivot. They can lean entirely into their existing strength. They can write a brilliant script and use these AI models to instantly translate their text into the native language of the video platforms.
They can maintain a daily presence on video-centric social media without ever leaving their word processor.
It is the ultimate multiplication of effort. But of course, there is still a massive population of creators who want to be on camera.
Right. They love vlogging, they love the connection of a talking head video, and they love the physical act of filming.
But they still despise the tedious post-production cleanup, or they want to elevate their basic footage with high-end visual effects.
And for those traditional creators, the AI Creator World Guide carves out a specific category: the post-production automators and VFX tools.
These are the tools that take your raw human effort and mathematically refine it.
Let's look at WiseCut. The guide paints WiseCut as the ultimate fix-it-and-post safety net.
Picture this. You sit down in your home office, turn on your camera, and try to deliver a 10-minute educational video.
But you are human.
Right. You stumble over your words. You pause for 5 seconds to check your notes. You clear your throat. You end up with a messy 20-minute file full of dead air.
You upload that raw, continuous take into Wisecut, and the AI acts as a ruthless, highly efficient assistant editor.
What does it do first?
First, it analyzes the audio waveform, detects every single instance of silence or dead air, and automatically slices it out, tightening the entire presentation.
Okay, so the dead air is gone.
Then it addresses the atmosphere. It analyzes the emotional tone and pacing of your speech and selects a suitable background music track. But it doesn't just slap the music on a loop. It uses a technique called audio ducking.
Audio ducking, which, for anyone who hasn't worked in sound design, is the incredibly tedious process of manually lowering the volume of the background music every time the speaker opens their mouth, and then raising it back up during the pauses so the music swells.
Doing that manually with keyframes takes hours.
Wisecut's AI automates the ducking perfectly by mathematically mapping the music's volume envelope to the amplitude of your voice.
But the most sophisticated psychological trick Wisecut employs is a feature called smart punch-ins.
Oh, I love this feature. If you watch a professional YouTuber, you'll notice the camera angle frequently jumps in slightly closer to their face for a few seconds and then pops back out.
It breaks up the visual monotony and forces your brain to pay attention.
Doing that manually means cutting the clip, going to the scale properties, typing in 115%, and then returning it to 100% on the next clip.
Wisecut analyzes the natural cadence and emphasis of your speech. When you raise your voice to make a critical point, or when the AI detects a transition between topics, it automatically applies those punch-ins.
It is mathematically simulating the visual rhythm of a human director, keeping the viewer's eye engaged without you having to touch a single keyframe.
It cleans up the mess and adds polish. But then the guide moves to Runway ML. And Runway is, well, it's a completely different beast.
The source describes it as bringing Hollywood-grade visual effects to everyday creators.
Runway ML is an absolute powerhouse. It offers tools like advanced motion tracking.
In the past, motion tracking meant painting physical green dots on an actor's face and tracking their movement frame by frame.
Exactly. Runway's AI instantly maps a three-dimensional, invisible mesh over any moving object in your video, allowing you to attach text, graphics, or blurring effects that perfectly follow the object's perspective and rotation in real time.
But the true magic trick is their in-painting tool.
In-painting is mind-bending.
Let's say you film a beautiful cinematic shot of a friend walking on a city street. But when you look at the footage, you realize there is a bright orange overflowing garbage can in the background that totally ruins the aesthetic.
With Runway's in-painting, you don't reshoot. You take your mouse and you literally just scribble a rough mask over the garbage can.
And this is where the AI diffusion model takes over.
It doesn't just blur the pixels. It analyzes the spatial context of the entire frame. It recognizes the brick wall behind the can and the concrete sidewalk beneath it.
As the camera moves, the AI literally hallucinates the missing information frame by frame.
It mathematically generates new bricks and new concrete, predicting exactly how the sunlight and shadows would play across those surfaces if the garbage can had never existed. It removes objects from reality seamlessly.
Okay, I have to stop and push back on the guide here.
What's the issue?
I understand how powerful Runway ML is. It also features Gen 2 and Gen 3 models that generate video from text, much like Luma AI. But I am looking at the title of this source material. 12 Best AI Tools for Beginner Video Creators. We established earlier that a beginner tool needs a simple, intuitive drag-and-drop interface. Runway ML is dense. It deals with nodes, complex masking, and generative prompting. Doesn't including Runway entirely violate the guide's own criteria for simplicity? Why is it on this list?
That is a very sharp critique, but the guide's inclusion of Runway ML is highly intentional, and it serves a specific philosophical purpose.
Which is?
It is included to define the ceiling of what is possible. Yes, it has a steeper learning curve than CapCut, but think about the trajectory of a creator. Once a beginner masters the simple timelines of CapCut or the text editing of Descript, they will inevitably hit a creative wall. They will have a vision in their head, a visual effect, a specific transition that the simple tools cannot execute.
They outgrow the basic guardrails.
Exactly. Runway ML is presented as the bridge. It shows the beginner that when they are ready to graduate, they don't have to go back to school to learn traditional VFX software like Nuke or After Effects.
They can transition into advanced AI tools that still abstract the hardest mathematics away from the user.
It proves that a solo creator sitting in their bedroom can now execute visual effects that, a decade ago, required $1 million budget and a team of 50 rendering engineers.
It's the ultimate aspiration. It proves the sky is the limit.
Exactly.
So let's zoom out and look at the board. We've explored tools that build videos from text, tools that edit via transcripts, tools that automate editing, and tools that bend visual reality.
You've used these tools and you now have a highly polished, incredibly engaging long-form video sitting on your hard drive.
You are ready to upload it to YouTube. But the harsh reality of the 2026 creator economy is that making the flagship video is only half the battle.
Right. How do you actually get eyeballs on it?
How do you distribute that massive video across TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts without spending 40 hours manually recutting it?
You have identified the massive bottleneck of the modern internet: distribution and repurposing.
You need a massive volume of short-form content to drive traffic to your long-form ideas.
And this is where the guide introduces what it calls the multiplication engine.
The undisputed champion of this category is Opus Clip.
I am profoundly obsessed with Opus Clip because it solves the most soul-crushing administrative task a creator faces.
Let's say you just recorded a deeply researched 2-hour podcast, well, let's say a 2-hour deep dive video about macroeconomics.
You know, there are 3 or 4 amazing, punchy 1-minute insights buried somewhere in those 2 hours that would absolutely go viral on TikTok.
But finding them traditionally requires you to sit down and rewatch your own 2-hour video.
You have to make subjective, often flawed guesses about what human attention will react to.
Then you have to take that wide horizontal video, manually reframe it by keyframing the crop to keep your face in the center of a tall vertical aspect ratio as you move around.
And finally, manually type out the bold, animated captions that short-form platforms demand. It is hours of agonizing, repetitive labor just to extract 3 clips.
Enter the multiplication engine. With Opus Clip, you don't do any of that.
You simply take the web link to your 2-hour YouTube video, paste it into the Opus Clip search bar, and you walk away to get a coffee.
In the cloud, the AI ingests the entire 2 hours of footage.
And its analysis is multi-layered. It uses natural language processing to read the transcript, looking for structural hooks, a controversial statement, a surprising statistic, a clear setup and punchline.
It analyzes the audio waveform for emotional shifts when your voice gets louder or more passionate.
And what?
It identifies the narrative peaks.
And then it automatically, mathematically extracts a dozen of those peaks, turning them into standalone 60-second clips.
It automatically applies facial recognition tracking to reframe the wide video into a perfect vertical format, ensuring your face never leaves the center of the screen, even if you walk across the room.
It slaps on highly stylized animated captions, but the absolute craziest mechanism inside Opus Clip is what the guide calls the virality score.
Yes, the virality score is a fascinating piece of predictive mathematics. Opus Clip doesn't just hand you 15 clips and wish you luck.
It assigns each clip a score out of 100.
How is it possibly calculating that? How does a machine know what humans will find engaging?
It is essentially a predictive stock market algorithm for human attention.
Okay, unpack that.
Opus Clip's AI is constantly analyzing the historical data of thousands of videos across TikTok and Reels. It understands the mathematical parameters of what made people stop scrolling yesterday, the pacing of the words, the density of the information in the first 3 seconds, the emotional valence of the hook.
It maps your newly generated clip against that massive data set and calculates a probability.
It is telling the creator, clip number 4 has an 88% structural match to current high retention trends. Post this one first.
It is literally like having a hyper-caffeinated marketing intern whose sole purpose in life is to watch your boring lecture, flawlessly identify the exact moments that will hack the human attention span, and edit them perfectly for you.
The leverage is astronomical. The guide correctly points out that with a multiplication engine, one single recording session can fuel an entire month of daily short-form social media output.
You create the core intellectual property once, and the AI handles the exhausting logistics of omnichannel distribution.
Okay, so we have all the puzzle pieces on the table. We've dissected the anatomy of the 12 tools the AI Creator World team recommends.
But toward the end of the guide, they drop a really crucial piece of philosophy.
They argue that knowing about these tools is meaningless if you don't know how to integrate them.
Having a pile of advanced hammers and saws doesn't mean, the architectural sequence of building a house.
The creators who actually succeed and publish consistently are the ones who string these tools into a frictionless workflow.
Workflow is the invisible architecture of consistency. An isolated tool is a novelty. An integrated workflow is an engine.
And the source actually constructs a highly specific step-by-step workflow for a beginner to stack these disparate tools for maximum efficiency.
Let's build that ultimate beginner workflow right now, step by step, based on everything we've unpacked today.
Sounds good.
Step 1. The guide says to completely ignore the pressure to buy a camera. Record your raw video and audio directly on the smartphone you already own. Focus purely on your energy and your message.
Step 2. You take that massive, messy, raw smartphone file and you import it directly into Descript.
Why? Because the very first thing you need to do is structure the narrative. You let the AI generate the text document, and you use that linguistic interface to perform your structural edit.
You highlight and delete the tangents, you hit the button to automatically strip out the hundreds of ums and uhs, and you trim the fat. You are left with a perfectly paced, tight, horizontal video.
Step 3. You export that clean, structurally perfect video from Descript, and you bring it into CapCut on your desktop or phone.
Here is where you apply the aesthetic polish. Use CapCut's intuitive visual timeline to drop in B-roll footage, you use the transient mapping to beat sync some background music, and you apply a professional color grading template.
You now have a flagship, highly polished, long-form piece of content. You publish that masterpiece to YouTube.
And finally, step 4. You take the link to that finished YouTube video and you feed it into Opus Clip.
The AI digests the polished video and fractures it into 15 highly engaging vertical captioned short-form clips.
Phone to Descript to CapCut to Opus Clip.
By chaining these specific algorithms together, a solo creator has conceptualized, structurally edited, visually polished, and globally distributed a massive content campaign in a single afternoon.
But looking at that chain, I have to ask the obvious question.
What's that?
Why go through the mental gymnastics of juggling 3 or 4 different software subscriptions? Why bounce between platforms?
Yeah, why shouldn't a beginner just endlessly scour the internet looking for one single mythological god tool that does the transcript editing, the visual effects, and the short-form repurposing all in one window?
It is the most common trap a beginner falls into, the endless paralysis of searching for the perfect all-in-one suite.
The guide explicitly warns against this because it fundamentally misunderstands how software development works.
The most productive workflow relies on stacking tools because each tool has poured millions of dollars of R&D into mastering one highly specific niche.
The API and specialist argument.
Precisely. Descript is the undisputed master of linguistic transcript-based editing. CapCut has perfected the mobile visual interface. Opus Clip has built the ultimate predictive attention algorithm.
If you try to find a single piece of software that promises to do all three, you're guaranteed to end up with a bloated tool that does all three poorly.
Master the specialists. The guide advises starting with the simplest possible option that solves your immediate bottleneck.
Master it. Build your confidence. And only when you physically feel the limitations of that tool do you bolt on the next specialized AI to handle the new complexity.
You build the machine one gear at a time. It prevents the technological overwhelm that kills so many creative ideas before they ever get recorded.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, as we wrap up this deep dive?
If we synthesize everything we've discussed from this 2026 AI Creator World Guide, the overarching narrative is profoundly empowering.
The massive, intimidating walls of the fortress have been torn down. You do not need a massive bankroll to buy your way into the creator economy.
You do not need to spend 4 years at a film school learning the complex mathematics of digital compression.
In 2026, a beginner armed with nothing but the smartphone already sitting in their pocket and a free account on the tools we just broke down can produce a level of quality that stands toe-to-toe with production houses.
The algorithm has absorbed the technical friction, the heavy lifting, the micromanagement of the timeline, the physics of light and sound. It has all been handed over to the machine.
Your only responsibility, your only actual job as a creator today is to show up with your perspective, your voice, and your ideas.
And the ultimate call to action from the guide is the most honest advice you can hear. Just start.
Close the browser tabs. Stop researching microphones. Stop looking for the perfect software stack. You will learn infinitely more about storytelling by publishing one messy, slightly imperfect video today than you will by spending another month theorizing about the perfect setup.
But before we completely sign off, there's a broader, somewhat philosophical implication to everything we have unpacked today that I think is crucial to consider.
Hear it.
We have spent an hour detailing how these AI tools can instantly map phones to create perfect auto captions. They can mathematically duck audio, magically erase background garbage cans, and perfectly sync edits to the transients of a need.
Right. We are rapidly accelerating into an era of guaranteed algorithmic polish.
The guardrails we discussed ensure that it is almost impossible to make something that looks technically unprofessional.
The baseline of quality for the entire internet has been artificially raised.
Oh.
Every video is going to look crisp, sound warm, and be perfectly paced.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with. If perfectly edited, flawlessly polished, mathematically optimized videos become so incredibly easy to mass produce that they are utterly ubiquitous, do they lose their intrinsic value?
That's a fascinating point.
In a digital landscape where the AI guarantees flawless perfection for absolutely everyone, could raw, unedited, clearly human flaws, the awkward pauses, the deep breaths, the slightly imperfect bedroom lighting, the stumbles that show a mind working in real time, could those flaws actually become the new premium marker of authenticity?
Wow.
When every single person has the power to be a perfectly polished digital avatar, perhaps the only way to truly stand out is to just be relentlessly, visibly human.
That is a profound perspective. It really changes how you look at the whole pursuit of perfection. I think we will just let that idea sit with you. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take this knowledge, grab your phone, and go share your ideas with the world. We will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to AI Creator World Podcast. If you found this episode valuable, make sure to follow the podcast, subscribe on YouTube, and share this episode with another creator who is building their future online. For deeper guides, AI tools, and step-by-step growth strategies, visit our website at aicreatorworld.net. And remember, in the age of artificial intelligence, creators who learn faster will lead the future. See you in the next episode. Bye!